After cheating, my best friend and fiancé mocked me for 10 years until he met my wife. My best friend and fiancé cheated. After several years, he mocked me till meeting my wife. It was unexpected. They say betrayal comes from unexpected places. Daniel, my best friend or brother, was the one I trusted with my secrets, achievements, and heartbreaks. The man who supported me through college exams, late-night ramen trips, and endless discussions about conquering the world. My fiancée, Amanda, my universe. The center of my dreams, she was gorgeous, ambitious, and attractive, leaving me helpless. For years, I believed I had it all: a promising profession, a future with Amanda, and a close friend who was like family. But it all fell apart one frigid evening when Amanda confessed, her voice unsteady and her words shattering the silence. Daniel, think I adore him. My first reaction was disbelief. I must have misheard. My thoughts tried to make sense of what she said, but it contradicted everything I knew about Daniel and us. How could he? Could they? Something stopped me from confronting him immediately. Maybe shame? It was pride. I didn't want him to know how badly he cut me. Amanda's words kept repeating in my head, "We didn't mean it." It was insulting to absolve them of deception. Broken hearts and rage filled the days that followed. I broke up with Amanda. I left without looking back as she wailed and begged for my understanding. Daniel didn't contact me, maybe thinking I wouldn't face him. That time he was right. My work consumed me. I could trust my desire if not love. Late evenings at work, weekends networking, proposing ideas, and learning my craft. I needed the diversion. Pain fuels me, I learned. I used all my pain to grow. Dan was foolish to think he broke me. And Amanda? She wasn't worth my love, yet treachery left wounds. My friendship with Daniel ended more than a relationship. It ended a brotherhood built on loyalty and shared goals. It was knowing that someone I trusted with my life had twisted the knife while smiling. Did I miss him? Yes. It's strange, but I missed Daniel. The one who stood by me, not the one who grinned as he took my stuff. Resentment accompanied me silently. Every business milestone and income one gained was a step away from the version of myself they sought to break. They couldn't steal my stuff. Over time, I stopped monitoring them. I occasionally heard about their life together, a Maldives wedding, a fancy suburban home. But I didn't participate. They didn't matter to me. I wanted to build something bigger than their betrayal, something they could never take away. I wondered if they were happy late at night when the world quieted. Did Amanda ever consider me in our life together? Did Daniel feel guilty? Thoughts seeped in between my victories despite my efforts to ignore them. Funny how betrayal shapes you. I became used to carrying it as a reminder of who I am and who I never want to be. Daniel and Amanda's actions broke our link and ignited a fire in me they never imagined. My life's chapter ended, but the story went on. A decade might feel like a lifetime when betrayal haunts you. 10 years ago, Daniel and Amanda broke my world and left me to rebuild. I didn't know what I was constructing then, only that I wouldn't allow their deceit define me. Today I see a man who survived and prospered, a man people wouldn't recognize. Success took time and effort. Early on, I worked from a closet-sized office. I stared at spreadsheets for hours, fueled by caffeine and resolve. I was energized by every minor win, a client, funding, project. It all reminded me that I shaped my future, not theirs. After 5 years, my company outgrew the modest workplace. I relocated downtown into a modern, successful space with glass walls and panoramic views. The issue went beyond appearances. I created something lasting. My company was profitable and respected. I was known to industry leaders. Collaborations with household brands and private events became common. Despite my professional success, my personal life was quiet. Why I wasn't married or dating is often asked. I chuckle and say I'm married to my job or haven't found the proper person. The truth? Trust became difficult. Amanda was the only person I trusted with everything, and Daniel was my protector. Losing both at once created deeper scars than I wanted to admit. But I wasn't alone. I had longtime buddies. I'd built a caring network of supporters, mentors, colleagues, and friends. My accomplishment was shared with those who believed in me when I didn't. Daniel and Amanda's speculations followed. I didn't seek them out, but the environment makes you hear things you'd rather avoid. Their life seemed perfect. Mansions, expensive cars, exotic holidays. Amanda attended high-class gatherings and Daniel rose in the corporate world. They appeared invincible to others. But I knew better. You can't build happiness on betrayal. Their life seemed perfect, but I questioned how much was staged. I ignored them. I assured myself I wasn't bitter anymore. There were brief times when their shadows entered my mind. I wondered if they considered me in their actions. Did Daniel feel pride or shame looking at Amanda in peaceful moments? Did Amanda compare her life to ours? Controlling my work and legacy was my priority. My business was a symbol of endurance. I mentored startups, financed scholarships, and supported organizations. Giving back reminded me that success is about effect, not money or position. Leave the world better than you found it. Though I rarely dwelled on the past, memories reappeared certain evenings. Like an old wound that flares up in the cold, betrayal left a vague aching rather than stinging. I pitied Daniel and Amanda now, not hated them. Though their betrayal made me great, what did it bring them? Did wealth and status seem empty as expected? I reflected more than normal on the 10th anniversary of the betrayal, not with regret or anger but with pride. 10 years ago, I wouldn't recognize the man I've become. I was a young professional with huge hopes and a broken heart. A respected entrepreneur with a legacy. I believe Daniel and Amanda stole everything from me 10 years ago. Actually, they provided me clarity. They taught me who to trust and, more significantly, not to. They taught me that resilience is about how you handle pain, not avoiding it. I constructed an empire that no treachery could touch. It occurred during a routine Tuesday. I was at my desk reading quarterly reports when my assistant entered with an envelope. She seemed inquisitive, almost amused as she placed it on my desk. She stated it was a special invitation from the Summit of Innovators, her voice somewhat excited. I put down my pen and cautiously took the envelope. The Summit of Innovators was unique. It was an exclusive retreat for CEOs, industry leaders, pioneers, and those with influence in boardrooms worldwide. The summit had always impressed me, but this was my first invitation. A decade ago, I never imagined being in such privileged circles. I joined them. Gold-lettered invitations exuded dignity. I read it twice to absorb the details. A week at a luxury resort, top-tier networking, and business leaders' conversations. It could lead to unexpected connections and opportunities. With excitement comes apprehension. My company was profitable and respected. I was known to industry leaders. Collaborations with household brands and private events became common. Despite my professional success, my personal life was quiet. Why I wasn't married or dating is often asked. I'd chuckle and say I'm married to my job or haven't found the proper person. The truth? Trust became difficult. Amanda was the only person I trusted with everything, and Daniel was my protector. Losing both at once created deeper scars than I wanted to admit. But I wasn't alone. I had longtime buddies. I'd built a caring network of supporters, mentors, colleagues, and friends. My accomplishment was shared with those who believed in me when I didn't. Daniel and Amanda's speculations followed. I didn't seek them out, but the environment makes you hear things you'd rather avoid. Their life seemed perfect. Mansions, expensive cars, exotic holidays. Amanda attended high-class gatherings and Daniel rose in the corporate world. They appeared invincible to others. But I knew better. You can't build happiness on betrayal. Their life seemed perfect, but I questioned how much was staged. I ignored them. I assured myself I wasn't bitter anymore. There were brief times when their shadows entered my mind. I wondered if they considered me in their actions. Did Daniel feel pride or shame looking at Amanda in peaceful moments? Did Amanda compare her life to ours? Controlling my work and legacy was my priority. My business was a symbol of endurance. I mentored startups, financed scholarships, and supported organizations. Giving back reminded me that success is about effect, not money or position. Leave the world better than you found it. Though I rarely dwelled on the past, memories reappeared certain evenings. Like an old wound that flares up in the cold, betrayal left a vague aching rather than stinging. I pitied Daniel and Amanda now, not hated them. Though their betrayal made me great, what did it bring them? Did wealth and status seem empty as expected? I reflected more than normal on the 10th anniversary of the betrayal, not with regret or anger but with pride. 10 years ago, I wouldn't recognize the man I've become. I was a young professional with huge hopes and a broken heart. A respected entrepreneur with a legacy. I believe Daniel and Amanda stole everything from me 10 years ago. Actually, they provided me clarity. They taught me who to trust and, more significantly, not to. They taught me that resilience is about how you handle pain, not avoiding it. I constructed an empire that no treachery could touch. It occurred during a routine Tuesday. I was at my desk reading quarterly reports when my assistant entered with an envelope. She seemed inquisitive, almost amused as she placed it on my desk. She stated it was a special invitation from the Summit of Innovators, her voice somewhat excited. I put down my pen and cautiously took the envelope. The Summit of Innovators was unique. It was an exclusive retreat for CEOs, industry leaders, pioneers, and those with influence in boardrooms worldwide. The summit had always impressed me, but this was my first invitation. A decade ago, I never imagined being in such privileged circles. I joined them. Gold-lettered invitations exuded dignity. I read it twice to absorb the details. A week at a luxury resort, top-tier networking, and business leaders' conversations. It could lead to unexpected connections and opportunities. With excitement comes apprehension. These meetings frequently felt like a performance, with people strutting their fame and wealth like peacocks mating. Not sure I wanted to do it. But the prospective benefits were hard to overlook. My helper said, "Go," as if reading my mind. "Yes, it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance," I said, sitting back. I did think about it. Over 2 days I weighed the options. Part of me wanted to stay in my bubble, where I was in charge and didn't have to cope with high society's expectations. But my ambitious side understood this was a chance to improve my profession and make connections that could help my firm grow. On the third day I attended. I asked my assistant to reply and prepared for the retreat. I didn't realize this decision would take me into the maelstrom I'd avoided for years. The magnificent mountain resort with stunning views lived up to the invitation. It was an upscale, exclusive spot. I was welcomed with ultra-luxury hospitality. The personnel knew my name, preferences, and coffee preferences. The sight was amazing but unsettling. A relaxed, welcoming reception on the first evening allowed guests to socialize and set the tone for the week. As I entered the large hall, I saw elegant people in tailored suits and designer outfits. Powerful and influential conversations surrounded me. While talking to a venture capitalist, I heard a voice behind me for the first time in 10 years. "Is that?" With disbelief, the voice ended. My heart skipped a beat as I turned slowly. Daniel and Amanda, my past, stared at me. Their appearance was similar but distinct. Amanda's beauty was still remarkable, but her eyes were tired. Daniel had aged too, but his confident grin remained. Unease swiftly replaced wonder on their expressions. They didn't expect me in this select group. Why would? 10 years ago they wrote me off, taking my best and leaving me behind. I didn't react. My only response was a polite nod. I said calmly, "Daniel, Amanda. Long time." Daniel regained his grin first. "Yes. I didn't expect you here." Casually shrugging. "Life surprises us." Amanda looked between me and Daniel without speaking. Unspoken history weighed on the three of us as we stood silently. When Daniel offered his hand, he smiled forcefully. "Nice to see you," he said. "We should meet this week." I shook his hand tightly but not aggressively. My tone was neutral as I said yes. I grinned privately as they left. They didn't realize it, but this week would be more intriguing than expected. It wasn't like I avoided them or sought them out. The retreat was too essential to allow old ghosts distract me. I spent the first 2 days in workshops, debates, and networking. I worked hard to penetrate elite circles, and every contact felt like a step forward. But fate, as always, had other ideas. I heard his voice again at a mid-morning panel on emerging market innovation. "Want me to join?" Daniel appeared when I looked up from my notes. Though his eyes seemed to examine me, his confident smile remained. Validation, forgiveness, possibly intimidation. I wasn't sure or concerned. "Yeah," I answered nonchalantly, nodding to the seat next to me. He sat down, adjusting his fitted blazer as if the movement signified his achievement. As we watched the panelists debate strategy and ideas, we didn't speak. His interest and gaze were heavy on me. He was here for me, not the panel. Last, he leaned over during a discussion lull. He said, "You've done well for yourself," with astonishment and forced camaraderie. I glanced at him, smiling slightly. "I have. And you?" "Oh, he waved dismissively. "Life's good. Amanda and I are fantastic. She's here too. We've traveled extensively. Europe, Asia, etc. Her charity work and I keep her occupied." He hesitated, smugly smiling. "Corporate life offers benefits." My expression was bland as I nodded. "It sounds like you're living well." He relaxed in his chair, enjoying the chance to flaunt. "We have. Really, it's everything we wanted back then. Remember our conversations about living well and ascending the ladder? I suppose we both survived." I refrained from laughing at his arrogance. "I think we did," I responded calmly, returning to the panel. But Daniel continued. He kept talking about his career, travels, and Amanda, as if to remind me of what he'd taken. It was nearly hilarious. Here we were among industry's brightest minds. He focused solely on me. Reunion took another turn during lunch. Amanda approached after I finished talking to a potential investor. She looked flawless, every detail carefully selected. Though her countenance was unreadable, I saw her trepidation as she neared. She greeted hello quietly when she reached me. Quite some time. It has, I said politely but distantly. Despite not seeing, she grinned. You look good, prosperous. Thank you too. We paused, our silence thick with what we weren't saying. I could tell she was struggling with words. She didn't find what she wanted. Instead, she added, I'm sincerely delighted you're doing well. I nodded. I hope you are too. She briefly lost her smile, but she recovered. Yes, of course. Life's good. I saw her confidence break as she left. Though subtle, her stance and tone hinted to it. Though I didn't linger on it, it stuck. The day progressed with seminars and networking, but Daniel and Amanda stuck with me. Hearing their voices and seeing them brought back memories I thought were lost. I felt no pain or fury. Their presence didn't scare me. If anything, it confirmed my progress. I was no longer the man they left. I was stronger, wiser, and more accomplished than they thought. Daniel cornered me again at the networking dinner. Amanda smiled less this time, but she was with him. Daniel was in his element, laughing heartily, shaking hands, and establishing his status. His arrogant words when he turned to me were expected. Funny how life works, isn't it? While spinning his wine glass, he said, We started as two guys with big dreams, but now look at us. Yes, I said gently. Look at us. His smile faded barely for a second, but it was enough. Amanda squirmed awkwardly beside him, avoiding my eyes. I had a hunch this reunion wasn't what they expected. I learned something essential that night. I needed neither revenge nor approval. Just standing here, flourishing despite their betrayal, was enough. Though they could brag, I knew the reality. Deep down, I suspected they did. Next morning came renewed focus. I was here for work, not nostalgia. However, the cosmos appeared determined to connect my path to Daniel and Amanda's. Their attempts to engage me had evolved from arrogance to strategic perseverance. Daniel wanted to show off his perfect life at every opportunity. His boldest move came during a coffee networking event. Daniel approached the buffet table while I was conversing with another entrepreneur. Amanda trailed behind him. He interrupted as the talk slowed. He said good morning with a false sense of friendship. Want me to join? My conversation with the entrepreneur ended nicely, leaving me with Daniel and Amanda. My expression was bland as I nodded. Daniel immediately began his monologue. It's funny seeing you here. Amanda and I were discussing our progress. Your accomplishments are remarkable. Still single, right? The inquiry pierced through the morning's calm. Amanda looked at me, clearly uncomfortable, but said nothing. A slight smile. Dedicated to my work. Dan leaned back, grin broadening. I suppose it's simpler to focus without family distractions. He waved to Amanda. Look at my wife. Lovely, wealthy, and happy. Sad you're single. He said things to sting, to dig into previous wounds he imagined would still persist. What he didn't comprehend was that those wounds had healed. I stared at him without flinching and allowed the quiet make him uncomfortable. I spoke it quietly, boldly, and without hesitation. Also meet my wife. Words hit like thunder. Daniel's grin froze, his eyes expanded in amazement. Amanda stumbled over her coffee cup, looking stunned. Unaware of the seismic shift, we heard just the murmur of conversations around us. I checked my watch as if nothing was important. Please excuse me, I murmured casually as if talking the weather. I need to call quickly. They were stunned when I left with my phone. The truth? I didn't need to call. But the dramatic pause worked. As I stepped outside, their eyes were on my back and the tension was evident. I returned calmly a few minutes later. The room shifted. Daniel and Amanda were no longer the focus. The crowd wondered who I would announce as my wife. Daniel fidgeted and Amanda avoided eye contact, showing the power shift. My wife entered when I returned. Everybody in the room stared at her grace and confidence. Each step of her entry was like a symphony's first act, commanding attention without speaking. People whispered her name in awe, recognition spreading quickly. She was more than my wife. She was an industry giant admired and appreciated by all. Daniel's look was priceless. His lips dropped as he watched, losing his confidence. Amanda's reaction was more telling. Her uneasiness sharpened into jealousy or remorse. The thing made her shrink in fancy heels. With quiet pride, I approached my wife and took her hand. I said, everyone, with enough power to pierce through the muttering. Evelyn, my wife. The room applauded, but not me. For her. Daniel and Amanda both clapped stiffly and with fake smiles. It was clear that Daniel was struggling to reconcile the man he believed he'd left behind with the one before him. As the applause faded down, I saw Daniel. First he looked aside. Their confidence waned over the day. Daniel didn't approach me again and Amanda didn't look at me. They both understood the situation had changed. They expected me to feel victorious, but I didn't. This wasn't about revenge or one-upmanship. It was about remembering who I was and what I'd built despite their treachery. I thought about it at a peaceful meal with my wife that night. A decade ago, Daniel and Amanda stole something I couldn't live without. They gave me the fire to build a life beyond their dreams. Now I was completely free from them. Her presence changed the room. My wife commanded attention without asking. She drew people in with her confidence and friendliness. She moved through the crowd greeting individuals with her unique charm, and I couldn't help but feel proud. She was adored and revered. Some whispered her name in astonishment, stopping their talks to approach her. Most of them saw her as an industry leader whose achievements had raised the bar. I saw her as my companion who had supported me through every hardship, pulling me back from the edge several times. Daniel and Amanda stood near the buffet table, confused and disbelieving. My wife caught my eye as I approached. She smiled subtly, knowing she'd figured out the scenario before I arrived. "Daniel," I said calmly but firmly, "you should meet someone." Daniel turned, losing color as my wife approached. Standing alongside him, Amanda seemed paralyzed, her gaze flitting between us. My wife extended her hand with the same grace she always showed. She said hello in a warm, firm tone. "Hi, Evelyn." Daniel took her hand mechanically, his smile fading as he processed the occasion. Amanda's calmness was even less convincing. Her pleasant smile faded, her eyes showing amazement and envy. "Evelyn," Daniel whispered. "Quite an honor." I saw the irony. He took my happiest moment 10 years ago. He faced the woman who eclipsed Amanda and personified my life after their treachery. I waited as Daniel and Amanda struggled with the realization. Evelyn's presence struck them, but so did her accomplishments, influence, and industry stature. She was everything they pretended to be but weren't. Amanda managed Evelyn, her voice strained. "Many have told me about you." Evelyn's smile could fool even the toughest critic. She said, "I'm sure you have," lightly but pointedly. Always good to put faces to names. Amanda blushed at the subtle jab. Daniel appeared as if he'd reached a crucial realization. I noticed a small change in their demeanor as we talked. The arrogance and smugness they'd borne so easily disappeared. Instead, they felt nervous energy and unmistakable discomfort. Evelyn, the diplomat, led the talk with ease, which increased their unease. Evelyn left me with Daniel and Amanda when the conversation ended to talk to another person. No one talked for a time. We had a heavy stillness, a past-present collision neither of us could handle. Daniel began, murmuring as he looked for the appropriate term. "Impressive." He caught my glance as I smiled faintly. "She is." Amanda's expression was unclear. Her composure had broken, displaying a vulnerability she desperately wanted to hide. She finally said, "You've done well for yourself," but her tone was hesitant. Simple answer, "I have. And I'm glad for every step that got me here." I knew the statements hurt despite their intent. They were unavoidable, a reminder that the life they believed they eliminated had grown stronger. Their attempts to reconnect with me became awkward during the day. Daniel, who formerly loved showing off his success, suddenly seemed unsteady. Amanda, whose confidence was once her strongest asset, seemed like a shell of herself. After the day's events, their veneer was showing cracks. The truth was tearing apart their immaculate picture. As Evelyn and I sat on the terrace overlooking the mountains that evening, I thought about the day. The man I was 10 years ago would have wanted revenge and enjoyed their discomfort. However, the guy I was today felt clarity and calm from having overcome their betrayal. "They didn't expect that," Evelyn laughed, resting her hand on mine. "No," I said, staring at the horizon. "They didn't." I felt free for the first time in years. The air changed the next day. The enthusiasm Daniel and Amanda had the first 2 days, the smug superiority, the flaunting of their perfect life, was gone, replaced by an awkwardness that made every interaction with them feel like a chess game where they were cornered. I didn't need to find them. I let them deal with the truth because they had already realized it. They returned to me like moths around a flame, wondering if they were drawn or terrified of getting burned. Daniel took his next step at a networking brunch. I saw him arriving while discussing collaborations with a group of entrepreneurs. I'd never seen him grin so politely and hesitantly. This was Daniel's first hesitation. "Excuse me," he said, his voice nicer than yesterday. "Is it okay to borrow him?" Daniel led me to a quieter spot when the others nodded. Amanda followed him, her confidence waning. No one talked for a time. Daniel adjusted his weight, uncomfortably putting his hands in his pockets. He started carefully, saying, "It's incredible what you've built and who you've become." I raised an eyebrow, wondering of his meaning. Thank you. Yes, he glanced at Amanda, who was staring at the floor. I know our relationship ended badly. It was almost funny to understate. You could say that. The memory made him grimace. Hurt him. And we were stupid and young. I made bad decisions. The admission sat heavy and unexpected. Amanda looked up, conflicted, but said nothing. Daniel continued, rushing his words as if worried he'd lose his courage if he stopped. I've been thinking about it since yesterday, seeing you here and your accomplishments. It revealed several things about me and my character. He spoke while I remained silent. He took a long breath and looked at me with seriousness I hadn't seen in years. Finally, he apologized for everything. I wasn't expecting the weight of the simple words. I wasn't sure what to say. I wanted to hang on to the rage and bitterness that had fueled me for so long, but a calmer, steadier part saw the value of letting it go. I appreciate that, I said, measured voice. You owe me no apologies. Things are over and I'm better for it. He nodded, his expression a mixture of relief and regret. Amanda finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. We didn't think you'd move on like this. We thought I'd fall apart. I finished for her. And maybe I did for a while. But life has a funny way of proving people wrong. She nodded, unable to meet my gaze. Daniel shifted again, his usual bravado replaced by something almost vulnerable. I just wanted to say that to clear the air. I nodded, offering him a small, genuine smile. Consider it cleared. The conversation ended there, but the impact lingered. For the rest of the day, Daniel and Amanda kept their distance, their earlier attempts to engage replaced by quiet observation. I caught them watching me a few times, their expressions unreadable. It wasn't anger or envy, it was something closer to reflection, perhaps even regret. That evening, Evelyn and I attended a dinner hosted by one of the summit's organizers. It was a formal affair, filled with influential figures exchanging ideas and forging connections. Daniel and Amanda were there, of course. But they didn't approach me. Instead, they kept to themselves, their earlier confidence replaced by a subdued humility. As Evelyn and I mingled, I couldn't help but notice the contrast. Where Daniel and Amanda once seemed untouchable, their cracks were now visible. Meanwhile, Evelyn and I moved through the room with ease, our partnership a testament to what true success and fulfillment looked like. By the end of the evening, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: closure. Daniel's apology, as unexpected as it was, had given me the final piece I needed to put the past behind me. I didn't hate it.